The woes of KPMG have intensified. Brokerage firm Sasfin has cut ties with the auditing firm in the wake of a scandal that has engulfed it. The banking and financial services group says that it will be changing its independent sponsor from KPMG to Deloitte. It says that the KPMG and Grant Thornton Johannesburg partnership have been joint auditors of Sasfin Holdings, but it will rotate auditors earlier than planned and put the job out to tender. A few hours after Sasfin released a statement, energy and investment company Hulisani said that it would drop KPMG as its auditor, citing reputational risk. Other KPMG clients, including ABSA, Investec and Standard Bank, are reportedly also considering their options. Several companies have already cut ties with KPMG after it was accused of facilitating the theft of taxpayers' money by providing clean audits to companies linked to Gupta family's businesses. The audit firm has denied that any of its staff members were involved in corruption or criminal activity, but it has admitted that the standards associated with these audits fell short of its own high standards. Last week, it announced wide-ranging measures to clean house after a probe by the international unit of the business, including the departure of several executives, and KPMG withdrew parts of its report to the so-called rogue unit at the South African Revenue Service. Now, for more on this, we're now joined on the line by Sasfin Executive Director Michael Sassoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So why have you taken this decision to sever ties with KPMG?
Peter, thanks for having me on your show, and good evening to your viewers. Audit rotation is becoming an increasingly important issue in business. As you mentioned, that is something which we weren't planning on doing as soon as we are planning on doing it now. But obviously, given the well-publicized concerns around KPMG, we felt that it was prudent to and correct to put the audit out to tender and to give audit firms the opportunity to tender for the work. It's a decision which we haven't taken lightly. Many people at KPMG, I would venture to guess the vast majority of people, and the people that we've dealt with, at least the people who've handled our audit, are people that we hold in very high regard, and we've built a good relationship with them, and we got no concerns whatsoever about the people who we directly have dealt with in terms of our audit around integrity. But today, corporates are responsible for what goes on throughout their whole organization.
So they've been your auditors for 18 years, Michael, and that buys some loyalty, I would have thought. But at the drop of a media story at the moment, you drop them. Corporate governance and the way corporate governance is evolving, the concept of loyalty is an interesting concept, especially when it comes to your auditors, because the role of the auditors is to apply an independent view on the results of the firm. And therefore, audit rotation at its very heart kind of deals at this issue of loyalty. We've got to ensure that we are acting in terms of good corporate governance as those rules and regulations unfold. Explain to us this audit rotation, because they've been your auditors for 18 years. That's not rotation. Is this a new requirement?
It will be a new requirement. It should be introduced we expect it to kind of be introduced in the next couple of years. And essentially what the regulators are saying is that if an auditor who is there to express an independent view of the authenticity and the validity of a client's accounts, if they are there for too long, then perhaps there could be other conflicts of interest or other concerns that could be introduced into this very issue of loyalty and relationship. But if you're rotating auditors from time to time, then that will result in a more professional, call it arm's length relationship.
All right, so let's be clear. You have had no problems at all, ever, with the quality of their work. This really is just down to how they got caught up in the SARS and the Gupta saga.
In terms of our timing, but as I mentioned, this is something which our audit committee was considering even prior to kind of the negative public opinion, and in terms of audit rotation.
But this has speeded up the process.
Exactly.
Okay, and explain to us this sponsor story, because they were your independent sponsor as well, and you're going to change that to Deloitte, I believe.
That's correct. So as a JSE-listed company, you have to have an independent sponsor. We have our own sponsor team who are joint sponsors, and the role of the sponsor is really to ensure that the company complies with the JSE listing requirements and acts in terms of the rules of the JSE. KPMG have been our independent sponsor for many years, and again, in terms of the new rules and regulations, and in terms of independence when it comes to corporate governance, we didn't feel it was appropriate at this point, in terms of the changing regulations, to have the same auditors as were our sponsors.
All right, so now you were sponsors of Oak Bay, the Gupta family. How come you're not getting a lashing for this as well?
You know, our role as sponsor, first of all, we were the first, I believe, we were the first financial services firm to terminate our engagement with Oak Bay. And our role as sponsor was really just to ensure that the company complied with the JSE listing requirements, which, to the best of our knowledge, they did do. We terminated our engagement with them pretty soon after we became aware of the fullness of the concerns surrounding the Oak Bay and the family. So I think it's a very different. It was a very different role to what KPMG maybe have fulfilled in the broader family and the group.
All right. So perhaps as a final thought, are you not worried that, sometimes public opinion, especially in a social media environment, hypes up things so much that we judge things according to what we hear and not the actual facts on the ground?
No, I think it is a concern, and I think there's a lot of. It's amazing. Just today, for example, we released our results today, and normally we have some media interest in our results, but today, given the additional announcement that we made after releasing our results, the interest has been off the charts compared to what we used to, and I think that no one's been prosecuted yet or found guilty yet of doing anything wrong with regards to KPMG. But public opinion and the voice of the social media, it just shows you how important it is to be very conscious of reputation management and good ethical behavior.
All right, Michael, that's where we're going to leave it tonight. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That was Michael Sasfin, who's the Executive Director at Sasfin, who've just severed their relationship with KPMG, both as an independent sponsor and also will be rotating them as auditors after an 18-year relationship, citing reputational risk. Francis.